My nemesis fried his brain during his second differentiation. His supposed true love was right there, but he was convinced I was his wife. Then one day, it all clicked, and I slapped him across the face. "Thomas, you dare lie to me." But his eyes just got red-rimmed as he held back his emotions. His voice a soft, coaxing whisper. "Come on, baby. Hit me again, okay?" The sterile smell of the hospital was everywhere. Thomas, the famously aloof A-list star, was currently rolling around in bed, wailing for his wife. The guy who was supposed to be the one that got away was trying to calm him down. But Thomas just shot him a glare. "You're not my wife. Did you chase my wife away?" I stood frozen in the doorway, wondering if getting dragged out of bed in the middle of the night had finally made me lose my mind. The next second, Thomas rushed over and threw his arms around me. His voice choked with tears as he accused me. "Honey, what took you so long? Don't you want me anymore? Are you trying to leave me with that home wrecker over there?" The other guy's face went from pale to flushed and back again. I let out a loud, unapologetic laugh. This true love of his, Jordan, was a newcomer Thomas had personally propped up. He'd gotten a big head from all the favoritism and had thrown shade at me, both publicly and privately, more times than I could count. I thought, enjoying his misery, I wonder how Thomas is going to kiss and make up with his little darling once he's lucid? Never one to shy away from drama, I figured I might as well add some fuel to the fire. I put on a cutesy, high-pitched voice. "I was so worried about you." I accidentally let the sleeve of my shirt slip, revealing a bruise on my arm from a few days ago. I was in such a hurry to get here, I bumped into something. Thomas's eyes filled with pain. He leaned down and gently blew on the spot. My arm tingled, and I had to fight the urge to smack him. Seriously? I guess he's into this kind of thing. I took him home that night. Don't get the wrong idea. It's just that I couldn't handle Mrs. Johnston sobbing her heart out in front of me, insisting that he couldn't be left alone in his current state. So, Thomas came home with me, stuck to my side like glue. The moment I opened the door, whoa. My agent's eyes lit up as he stared straight at me. Then he saw Thomas behind me, and his face went pale. "Caleb, you wouldn't do something illegal just because you can't stand him, would you?" I rushed forward and clamped a hand over his mouth. When I glanced back at Thomas, my headache returned. The guy was already looking at me with watery eyes, his face a silent accusation, like a jilted lover. He whimpered, "Honey, you have another man in your apartment. Have you moved on?" Ignoring my agent's bug-eyed stare, I shoved him into the room. Then I calmly took Thomas's hand and soothed him. "How could I not like you? You're so handsome and so well-behaved." The last thing I wanted was for him to keep me up all night with his theatrics. Thomas's lips still trembled. "You don't like me anymore. You didn't even sniff my pheromones." I sighed. "I'm a beta, what am I supposed to smell?" I leaned in toward his scent gland just to humor him, but then I caught it, the distinct aroma of plum wine. Startled, I looked back at Thomas. He just blinked at me with wide, innocent eyes. I must have imagined it. I managed to get him settled in the bedroom, then pushed my agent out the front door. I was so exhausted I could have fallen asleep standing up. My agent rattled on and on about something, but I barely heard a word, only catching snippets about a reality show and a live stream. I just nodded along to get rid of him. Someone was knocking on my door first thing the next morning. I was dead tired, my hair a total mess, and I couldn't stop yawning as I went to open it, and came face to face with a camera. I stared at it. It stared back at me. The live comments were flying. "OMG, Caleb's bare face is killing me. What's with his reaction? Did he not know about the live stream? He's so fake." Then, from behind me, Thomas's sleepy voice drifted out. "Honey, why are you up so early?" My back went rigid. The comments section instantly exploded. "Oh, Caleb, you bastard. Thomas is an omega. What did you do to him? Can this washed up nobody please stay away from my man? Stop trying to leech off his fame, know your place." My fans fired back. "Oh please, as if your ice prince could ever land our Caleb. Everyone knows Caleb is the biggest heartthrob in the industry." It was giving me a headache. Meanwhile, Thomas was happily nuzzling my neck, completely oblivious. Seeing an opening, I grabbed my agent, pulled him out of the crowd, and demanded to know what was going on. He gave me a look of pure exasperation and launched into an explanation. Turned out he'd signed me up for a reality show. The whole gimmick was authenticity, with a 24/7 live stream following the guests for a week. I put my head in my hands, and this royal pain in the ass was still here. "Don't worry," my agent said, confidently pulling out his phone. Their studio already released a statement about his second differentiation. From the looks of it, they actually want to play up the couple angle with us. A couple? With him? I rolled my eyes internally. The moment His Highness comes to his senses, all hell is going to break loose. Thomas and I have been rivals since we were kids. He was handsome, always got better grades than me, and was so arrogant he never even gave me the time of day. Just looking at his stuck-up face made me sick. When the news broke that he'd presented as an Omega, half the girls at school showed up the next day with red, swollen eyes. I, on the other hand, felt a strange sense of relief, a subtle kind of victory. Things calmed down between us after that. After all, I couldn't bring myself to pick a fight with an Omega. But my attitude toward him was still crap. I couldn't talk to him without throwing a few jabs. "And you want me to be a couple with this guy? I'd be lucky if he didn't come after me with a machete." My agent was grinning from ear to ear. "Do you have any idea how many brands have reached out to you since this blew up?" I gritted my teeth. Am I the kind of person who'd sell out for a little money? Of course I am. I turned back to Thomas with a dazzling smile. This wasn't my nemesis, this was my talking ATM. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. When I opened it, I was greeted by Jordan's sickeningly sweet face. My hand slipped, and I almost slammed the door on him. But he squeezed through, looking all pitiful. "Caleb, you're not going to turn me away, are you?" An alpha, acting so delicate. I forced a smile onto my face, my voice tight. "Welcome. Of course you're welcome." Jordan shoved past me and sat down next to Thomas like he owned the place. "Thomas, you haven't seen me once since you got out of the hospital." His voice made my skin crawl, but it seemed to be exactly what Thomas went for. I slowly turned my gaze to him. Thomas shot up from the couch and hid behind me. "Honey, why'd you let this pest in?" The smile on Jordan's face faltered. He lowered his eyes, his body swaying slightly as if he might shatter at any moment. "I know Thomas doesn't remember me. It's okay. I'll always be here waiting for him." The comments section was a war zone. Is there any difference between Caleb and a scheming homewrecker? So gross. Excuse me, did Caleb kidnap your precious Thomas? Open your damn eyes and see who's clinging to who right now. Exactly. Our Caleb is the one getting taken advantage of, and he hasn't even complained. Is this necessary? Everyone knows how good Thomas was to Jordan before. Shouldn't Caleb, a total stranger in this, know to keep his distance? Before I could say anything, Thomas popped out from behind me, holding up his phone. "Hey, don't try to play the victim. You think this will get you out of paying me back?" Thomas scrolled through his screen. "Let me tell you, I may have lost my memory, but I have a very clear record of the money you owe me right here. I'm just your creditor, dude. Can you stop with the drama?" Everyone in the room started looking at Jordan differently. He looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. He covered his face and ran out, striking a pose like a tragic heroine. "Thomas, you'll regret this one day." I was like, if you're sick, go see a doctor. For once, the live chat was quiet, except for one lonely comment drifting by. "So this is the famously aloof, untouchable superstar Thomas?" Once the cameras were off, I quietly asked Thomas, "Did you have to be so brutal?" He lifted his chin proudly. "Of course. That's my future wife fund I'm saving up for you. I can't be short a single penny." Then he planted a quick kiss on my cheek, his face suddenly anxious. "Honey, you didn't misunderstand, did you? I swear. There's nothing between us. You're the only one for me." He started to raise his hand to make a vow. I quickly pulled his hand down. My heart felt like it had just been pulled out of water, a mix of sour and sweet. The guy was actually growing on me now that he'd lost his mind. Suddenly, I wasn't sure if I wanted him to get his memory back. The long day of live streaming finally ended. I had just shown a horde of people out when I turned around to see Thomas staring at me with big, wet puppy dog eyes. He fidgeted. "Honey, I want to sleep with you." I took a deep breath and grabbed his shoulders, shaking him. "You're an alpha now. You need to learn to be independent." Thomas mumbled, "What's the point of being independent? They don't have a wife." I almost laughed out of frustration. He switched back to playing the pity card. "Honey, my scent gland hurts. I can't sleep if I can't smell you." He lowered his gaze, looking utterly dejected. "There used to be your things in the room." Lying in the same bed as Thomas, I was sure I had gone completely insane. I cursed my own soft heart for falling for his ridiculous excuses. Thomas, on the other hand, was thrilled. It wasn't long before I heard his even breathing. The darkness is perfect for memories, and some old ones quietly surfaced. There was actually a time when Thomas and I got along so well that we could even share a bed. Back then, he wasn't the stuck-up, annoying person he became later. He was a sweet kid who I could tease until his face turned bright red. I'd sprawled out on his bed, propping my chin on my hand with a lazy grin. "What? Am I not allowed to sleep in the great Mr. Johnston's bed? You got someone else in mind?" Little Mr. Johnston's face went crimson. Finally, he managed to stammer out, "No, Caleb, you're such a damn pervert." And I just lay on his bed, laughing my head off. The scent of plum wine drifted through the night, pulling me back to the present. I propped myself up and watched Thomas's sleeping face in the moonlight, a bitter smile touching my lips. That was all in the past. I pulled the covers over my head. "Yeah, Caleb, it's all in the past." I closed my eyes and fell into a deep sleep. I never knew that the person behind me had quietly opened his eyes, watched me for a long time, and then wrapped his arms around me, pulling me into his embrace. Maybe the production team finally grew a conscience, because they didn't show up at the crack of dawn today. I heard a noise at the door, and before I could see who it was, a figure launched itself at me. I instinctively opened my arms to catch him. A chirpy voice buzzed in my ear. "Caleb, I finally get to see you." I chuckled and shook my head. That kid, William, was always like this, no sense of personal space. But then I looked up and saw the production crew standing behind him with their cameras, along with Thomas, whose face was as cold as ice. William stood beside me, hands on his hips, full of pride. I let them in. Aren't I awesome? The live chat was already dying of laughter. "Oh, Thomas, looks like your man's leaving you." Thomas, pouting. "Make Caleb guess why." William was excitedly trying to drag me out the door. "Caleb, you promised you'd show me around the city when I visited." Behind us, Thomas's face was so sour you could probably wring a gallon of vinegar out of it. I held back a laugh and secretly squeezed his hand under the table, explaining out of the camera's view. I'd found William on the street by chance while shooting a film out of town. He was a rebellious rich kid who had run away from home. The kid didn't even know his way around and was just squatting there like a mushroom. I gave him a little pep talk, took him home, and we'd kept in touch ever since. Thomas's expression softened slightly. But then William, that little brat, swung his legs and said something that almost made Thomas spit blood. "When I grow up, I'm definitely going to marry Caleb." And just like that, the two of them were in a competition. You put a piece of meat on my plate, he'd add 2 slices of vegetables. I looked at the mountain of food in my bowl. I'm not a pig, you know. Then I kicked Thomas under the table. "Why are you getting into a fight with a kid?" Thomas turned his head away, haughtily refusing to communicate with me. It was the same at the amusement park. William wanted to ride the roller coaster, and Thomas, stubborn as a mule, insisted on going too. I grabbed him. "Are you crazy? Did losing your memory make you forget you're afraid of heights?" Thomas pointed at William, who was making faces at him from the side, and said firmly, "If I don't go, can you imagine how much he'll make fun of me? Besides, I have you, don't I, honey? You'll protect me, right?" He said that, but as we sat on the roller coaster, his lips were pressed into a thin, white line. I held his hand tightly. The ride was intense. When we got off, Thomas was drenched in sweat, leaning weakly against me. William started to say something, but I shot him a glare and he shuffled away, rubbing his nose. I stepped away from the cameras to get Thomas a bottle of water. When I looked back, he was standing under the shade of a tree, smiling at me. He stood tall and straight, his smile radiant, the wind rustling his white shirt. For a second, I was thrown back to high school, completely lost in the moment. Thomas had already walked over. He handed me an ice cream and casually took the water from my hand. Want some ice cream? I remember you liked this flavor. My hand froze as I took the cone. I looked up at him, stunned. You're not faking this, are you? Realizing his slip-up, Thomas's eyes darted away, avoiding my gaze. A nameless fire erupted in my chest. I felt so breathless my head started to spin. I grabbed the collar of his shirt. Was it fun messing with me? Thomas pressed his lips together even tighter, looking down as he tried to defend himself. I wasn't. I cut him off with a cold laugh. So what's your game this time, Mr. Johnston? I raised my voice, dripping with sarcasm. After all, a big shot like you has always looked down on people like me. I snatched the ice cream from his hand and threw it on the ground. If you're just looking to play around, please, find someone else. I'm not playing. A wet sensation touched my lips. I stared wide-eyed. The son of a bitch had pinned my hands and was forcing a kiss on me. When I finally broke free, I was seeing red. I swung my hand and slapped him hard across the face. Thomas, are you insane? Do you have any idea what you're doing? Thomas's face was flushed, the desire still lingering in his eyes. He was breathing heavily, his voice a seductive whisper as he took my hand and placed it on his cheek. Baby, do it again, please? A chill ran down my spine. I threw his hand off and my face went cold. Get a grip, Thomas. And don't go into heat on me. The flush instantly drained from Thomas's face, leaving him paper white. His hand dropped limply to his side. He took a few steps back, his expression darkening. After one last, deep look at me, he gave a bitter smile. Don't worry, I won't bother you again. By the time I got back, Thomas was gone. A lot of the comments in the live chat were mocking. Well, where are all of someone's loudmouth fans now? Why'd Thomas leave? What other reason could there be? Someone's a fake who thought they were the real deal. I pretended not to see them and focused on hanging out with William. At one point, William nudged me with his elbow and asked worriedly, Dude, you okay? I froze, then instinctively checked my reflection in my phone screen. The person staring back at me had a ghostly pale face and a stiff, forced smile. It was an ugly sight. I sighed inwardly. Caleb, you're pathetic. After finally surviving the 7-day reality show, I collapsed onto my bed like a limp noodle. My agent came by at one point, but I just pulled the covers over my head and played dead. Not interested. Nope, not taking any jobs. Her voice was flat. Really? Not even a part in Director Chen's new film? I shot up in bed. What film? I'll take it. I'd been desperate for a role that wasn't just about my looks for a long time. Most of my parts typecast me as the pretty boy, nice to look at, but with no soul. Director Chun was famous for his delicate, artistic films and was notoriously strict with his actors. Thomas had gotten his big break in one of his movies. I just had no idea why he was approaching me. My agent gave me a sidelong glance. They specifically requested you for the second male lead, but what? I asked eagerly. It's called No Way Out. It's a fantasy film with 2 male leads. The other lead is Thomas. You should think it over carefully. I fell silent. After a moment, I wiped my face and agreed. I'll do it. You know I need this chance, Sarah. She gave my shoulder a reassuring pat, left the script on the table, and quietly left. I stared at the ceiling for a while, then rolled over and started reading. Cut. Caleb, what is wrong with you today? Half a month later on set, Director Chun was scolding me, his face grim. How many takes has it been? I hung my head, ashamed. Thomas popped up from the side with a grin. All right, director, don't be mad. Caleb's new to this kind of role. It's normal for him to have trouble getting into character. I'll run lines with him in a bit. Director Chun shot him a look, then waved his hand magnanimously. Fine. Go on and make sure you help him out. I followed Thomas to his room, feeling awkward and unsure of what to say. Thomas, however, sat down on his bed casually and patted the spot next to him. What are you standing there for? Sit. The scene depicted the two male leads' budding romance in their youth. Thomas pinned me against the wall, his warm breath mingling with mine. The fresh scent of plum wine washed over me, and I was suddenly speechless, just staring at him blankly. Thomas's soft laugh brought me back to my senses. My face flushed, and I tried to pull away out of sheer embarrassment. He wouldn't let me. He held both my hands above my head, his bright eyes looking straight into mine. Can you look me in the eye and tell me you don't feel a thing for me? It was a line from the script. Without realizing it, I'd slipped into character, my gaze darting away. Thomas turned my head back to face him, our noses touching. He was like a tempting siren. I closed my eyes, resigned to my fate, and threw caution to the wind. Fine. I'm in love with you. A long moment passed without a sound from Thomas. I peeked open one eye and saw him watching me with a smile. See? You nailed it. He grabbed my hand and pulled me in front of the director. We got it in one take. When Thomas pulled his hand from mine, I felt a strange sense of loss. When I got back to my room after the day's shoot, my heart was still pounding. My phone screen lit up. It was a message from my mom, crying about being broke. It was like a bucket of ice water being dumped over my head. I snapped out of my daze, my heart sinking to the pit of my stomach. I sent her the money like I always did, ignored the long-winded reply, and pulled the covers over my head. I'd almost forgotten we weren't from the same world. Feelings like this are a prison you build for yourself, and you're always the only one trapped inside. Filming progressed quickly. Thomas and I grew more comfortable with each other, both of us seemingly forgetting what had happened before. One day, I pushed open Thomas's door to run lines, just like usual, but found him lying listlessly on the bed. His face was an unhealthy shade of red, his eyes unfocused. Thomas's assistant, who was right behind me, reacted instantly. He rushed over and helped him up, worried. Looks like Thomas's going into his rut, isn't he? That's when I remembered that Thomas's second differentiation was recent, which meant his ruts would be unstable and come with a lot of symptoms. I immediately helped hoist him onto my back. What are we waiting for? Let's get him to a hospital. Thomas weakly opened his mouth. I leaned closer to hear what he was saying. He seemed delirious from the fever. Remember, he said slowly to call Jordan. I was so angry I almost threw him off my back right then and there. The assistant yelped beside me. I was green with jealousy. So he really is into that type. The truth comes out during a rut. Huh? If you're so into Jordan, why were you messing with me? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I secretly pinched his thigh hard. The idiot has no taste, falling for a two-faced snake like that. Thomas whimpered in my ear. Honey, be gentle. Okay? That hurts. I glared at him. Serves you right. Hope it hurts like hell. We finally got Thomas into the car and to the hospital. Jordan was already waiting there and smoothly took Thomas from me. He turned to me with a smug, triumphant smile, his expression so infuriating I wanted to slap him twice. Caleb, I told you, you can't compete with me. The next day, I was woken up by a string of frantic calls from my agent. The second I answered, her voice came firing out like a machine gun. Caleb, what is going on? How did you manage to stir up so much trouble while shooting a movie? Just go online and look. Then you can explain it to me. She hung up. I checked my phone and saw that the paparazzi had snapped pictures of me going in and out of Thomas's room the day before. In the photos, I was sneaking in furtively. A little while later, I emerged carrying a flushed, weak-looking Thomas on my back. It looked like we had been up to something shady. The comment section was buzzing. Caleb has no shame. So Thomas finishes that fast? He looks like he's been completely drained. What the hell were these thirsty comments? To make things worse, Jordan just happened to post on social media. The picture was of Thomas in a hospital bed, with Jordan beside him, looking exhausted with dark circles under his eyes. As long as he needs me, I will always be by his side. and I will always trust him. Jordan's fans went ballistic, flooding his comments with support. It's all that shameless leech Caleb's fault. Don't worry, we'll always have your back. And then they got me trending for all the wrong reasons. Could you have some decency? You know they're a couple, why do you keep forcing yourself on them? Who knows? He gets such good roles right out of the gate. Who knows how many beds he's warmed? Exactly. God knows how promiscuous he is behind the scenes. You've got to be kidding me.
I'm totally innocent.
I called my agent immediately. She sighed heavily. Thomas is still out of it, so public opinion is siding with Jordan. There's nothing we can say right now that people will believe. We've released a statement, but you should probably lay low for a while. That night, I dreamed of Thomas. If it weren't for that accident, we might have still been best friends. My dad died in a car crash, and our wealthy family fell apart overnight. That's when I learned how cold people could be. The same people who'd smiled to my face turned around and shoved me out the door. My mom had been spoiled for too long. She didn't know how to do anything, but she couldn't break her habit of spending money lavishly. If I said one word about it, she'd burst into tears. At my lowest point, it was Thomas who pulled me back up. He found me by a dumpster in the middle of the night. There were empty beer bottles scattered around me. When I looked up and saw Thomas appear before me like a god, I just grinned stupidly and offered him the bottle in my hand. You're here too? Want some? Thomas snatched the bottle, smashed it on the ground, and hauled me to my feet by my collar. He slapped me twice. Is this what you meant by beating me? Is this all you've got? Caleb, don't make me lose respect for you. I wasn't even angry. I just said flatly, you said it yourself, Mr. Johnston. That was the past. What do I have to compete with you now? Suddenly, the eyes of the usually arrogant rich kid turned red. He muttered a curse, then grabbed my face and forced me to look at him, saying each word clearly. Caleb, you still have me. Let me tell you, you are the rival I chose. You're not allowed to give up so easily. He took me home with him. Mrs. Johnston was happy to have me. She and my mom used to be good friends, and she'd been trying to help our family ever since the accident, but my mom had always refused. So I moved into the Johnston family home. One day after school, I got my report card back. I was ranked number 1. I ran to find him, excited, but I overheard him talking to someone else. Damn, Thomas. If you hadn't taken Caleb in out of pity, would he be walking all over you like this now? Thomas's voice was so cold it could freeze water. He's not my friend. The paper in my hand fluttered to the ground. The world stopped. My mind went blank. Before they could come out, I scrambled to pick up the report card and ran. I went back to my own house in a daze. My mom had just gotten home from one of her outings. She gave me a disinterested glance and sneered, well, look who's finally decided to grace us with his presence. How much money did you manage to get out of the Johnstons? I clenched my jaw. She laughed hysterically, her blood-red nails flashing in front of my eyes. Oh, my foolish son. Did you really think they genuinely cared about you? I balled my fists. I'm transferring schools. I'm cutting ties with them, and I'll work to support you. Maybe I'd been dreaming for too long, because I woke up with a headache. I got up to get some water and found Thomas had snuck in at some point. He was curled up by my bed, hugging my clothes, fast asleep. I mercilessly shook him awake. All right, spill it. What are you doing here? Thomas looked lost. After a long moment, he gave up and said, I'm pathetic. Okay? I just wanted to see you. He didn't look at me, just kept talking. I miss you. I miss you so much. Every time I close my eyes, all I see is you. I crave your scent, your voice, everything about you. When Thomas finally looked up, I saw the tears shimmering in his eyes. Who could be crueler than you? You just left back then without a word. All these years, you never even sent me a single Happy New Year text. Whenever you see me now, you're so damn polite. His voice dropped. You have no idea how much I miss you every night. A wave of frustration crashed through my chest. I let out a cold laugh. Is that so? I'm not worthy of your thoughts, Mr. Johnston. After all, I wasn't even good enough to be your friend, let alone compete with the one you've been obsessed with for years. Thomas stared at me, shocked. What are you talking about? I had nothing left to lose. Weren't you the one who said in the classroom that I wasn't your friend? And Jordan, is there anyone in this industry who doesn't know you personally launched his career? Thomas was stunned. So you left all those years ago because you heard that? His smile was sadder than tears. If only you had heard the whole thing. What I said was, he's not my friend. He's my rival, my equal, the person I'm in love with. As for Jordan, he looked at me sharply, his eyes deep. I was an omega back then. I was scared. Scared I'd be controlled by pheromones. Scared I'd betray you. Jordan's pheromones were a 95% match with mine. We made a deal. I gave him resources and he provided his pheromones so I could develop a suppressor. But I'm an alpha now, and I have medication. Can I apply for a chance to win you over? I was still reeling from all the new information, but Thomas didn't give me a chance to breathe. He pressed closer, his voice intoxicating. Your suitor is in a lot of pain right now. Could you spare him a kiss? Thomas's kiss was fierce and demanding. I bit back instinctively. I heard a noise behind us and tried to turn, but Thomas held the back of my neck. He chuckled. Baby, you have to focus when you're kissing. When I finally looked, I saw Jordan staring at us, his eyes wide with fury, a swarm of reporters behind him. Why was I so completely unfazed by this? Thomas, I took care of you day and night, and this is how you treat me? Jordan cried pitifully. Here we go again. Of course not. Jordan's face lit up, but then Thomas calmly pulled out his phone and started calculating from a ledger. Based on your appearance fees, plus the expenses I initially agreed to cover, subtracting all that, you owe me about $5,608,658.40. Oh right, Thomas added with an infuriating shrug. And there's the matter of your team using my name for publicity without my knowledge. Remember to pay my reputation damages for that, too. I'm expensive. Let's talk money, not feelings. Feelings hurt the wallet. And don't mess with my relationship with my husband. I was trying so hard not to laugh. The story blew up online and was trending within minutes. Jordan owes Thomas Johnston money. Caleb and Thomas Johnston kissing. Thomas Johnston and Caleb official? I was so mortified. There was one last scene to film for No Way Out. The two boys in the sect grow up together, relying on each other. But after falling in love, they're forced down different paths, becoming bitter enemies who try to destroy each other until they're nothing but obsessions for one another. My character sacrifices himself in the end to fulfill the other's dream. It was a high-tension scene. I was suspended in a wire harness, about to lunge with my sword, when the rope suddenly snapped. I fell without warning. My last memory before passing out was Thomas desperately reaching out, trying to catch me. When I woke up in the hospital, I didn't see Thomas. I was looking around for him when a glamorous voice said, "Stop looking. Your little boyfriend went to take care of the culprit for you." "Mom, what are you doing here?" I mumbled. She gave me a playful look. "What kind of question is that? Is it so strange for me to come see my own son?" I was speechless. Ever since I entered the entertainment industry, our only communication was when I sent her money. Now that she was here, I didn't know what to say. She patted my head. "I came to tell you that I'm planning to get married and move abroad. You're free. You don't have to take care of me anymore. You must hate me, right? Person like me?" She laughed self-deprecatingly, hooking her sunglasses on her long fingers as she stood to leave. "But I still have to say it. Caleb, all these years, you've worked so hard." When Thomas came back, his face was dark and radiating a chilling anger. "Where did Jordan get the nerve to hurt you like this?" The truth was soon released online. Jordan's assistant had tampered with the wire harness. The internet was in an uproar. Everyone condemned Jordan and expressed their sympathy for me. Meanwhile, I was living like a king in the hospital with my foot propped up, with Thomas waiting on me hand and foot. Jordan came to see me privately, begging and crying, asking me to sign a letter of forgiveness. I wagged my finger dismissively. "Nope, people have to pay for what they do." His expression changed instantly. He tried to lunge at me, but the bodyguards by my side grabbed him and threw him out. He became a laughingstock online for years. Jordan ended up in jail. Even after he gets out, The debt he owes Thomas will take a lifetime to repay. On the night we wrapped filming for No Way Out, everyone was having a great time, popping bottle after bottle of champagne. Thomas's face was flushed from drinking. He grabbed my hand and whispered in my ear, "You're not allowed to leave later. You have to stay with me." I smiled and agreed. When he pulled me out of the car, I realized he'd brought me to our old high school. Drunk Thomas was like a petulant child, being completely unreasonable. He refused to go through the main gate, insisting we had to climb the wall. I had no choice but to go along with it. The students were still in their evening study sessions, so the campus was quiet. Thomas dragged me up to the rooftop and guided my hand along the wall, excitedly shouting, "It's right here." Using the flashlight on my phone, I leaned closer and saw the words carved into the brick. "Thomas loves Caleb most of all." I imagined the serious, mature young Thomas from back then, carefully carving those words into the wall just like all the other high school sweethearts. I almost burst out laughing. He hugged me from behind and mumbled, "You still haven't officially agreed to be with me." I put on a stern face. "What makes you so sure I'll say yes?" He grinned slyly. "Caleb, you can't fool me. I saw your medical records. When you have feelings for someone, you can smell their pheromones, right? You hesitated back then. You definitely smelled mine." The rooftop breeze was cool and refreshing. Thomas looked at me, his face full of nervous anticipation. I looked into his eyes and remembered that summer night, the wind rushing past my ears as he pulled me along in a run. I laughed softly. "Okay, we still have a long way to go, with many more summer mornings and countless sunrises and sunsets ahead of us."